All right, everybody. Hello. Happy Wednesday. This is Michelle Benjamin from AUDIENCEX. Welcome. We're going to give everybody a few minutes to log on. It always takes just a couple minutes, but today we are talking about optimizing your business's social presence in 2021. And before we get into the meat of the presentation, a few housekeeping items for you. We are recording this. We will be sending out the recording afterwards. If you would like a copy of the slides afterwards, you can just reply to that email where I'm sharing the recording and we can give you those. And if you have any questions at any point, there's two options to send over your questions. We've got the Q&A and the chat boxes. So either of those will go to Lindsay and myself, and we will be addressing those at the end if we haven't answered them throughout the presentation. So with that, I will introduce our speaker today, Lindsay Milligan. She is a senior social strategist at AUDIENCEX. Welcome, Lindsay.
Thank you.
How is the weather in New York today?
It is beautiful out. How about by you?
Oh, Marina Del Rey is very cloudy. We're right in the middle of May gray right now. It's not fun. So hopefully the sun comes out later. Lindsay is on the East Coast, obviously. She has worked on, develops social strategies for clients across every industry, retail, finance, smart home, all brands. So yes, she is the person to lead us about social. So we're going to talk about our best practices. And with that, Lindsay, I'm going to pass it over to you. If you have anything else to say to introduce yourself, feel free. And otherwise, let's get into it.
Okay, sounds great. Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining today. In this webinar, I'm going to be talking about mainly organic social and holistic social media strategy. But we do recommend more of an integrated approach with both paid and organic. Obviously, there is a lot going on right now with the new iOS 14 policies on the paid end of things. So if you missed our webinar hosted by our Director of Paid Search and Social, Chris Clark, which happened a few weeks ago, you should be sure to go to our YouTube channel after this and watch because it has some really great information. But for today, the first thing I'm going to walk through is why optimizing your social presence is essential in 2021. So I'm going to talk about why social is so important within your overall business marketing strategy. I will then walk you through how to perform a brand positioning review. So this is where you're going to make sure, all of your social platforms have relevant information filled out. You're going to ask yourself the questions like, do you have consistent branding? Do you have easily accessible handles? Do you have direct links? And then in this step, you're also going to take a look at your competitors. So you're going to determine whether you're on the right platforms, are your competitors on these channels, and what are they doing? And this step is key to determining whether your brand is aligned with industry trends, and make sure that you're really putting your best foot forward on social. Then next, we will discuss the platform algorithms and tips. So I'm going to give a brief overview of the algorithm for each platform. And the platforms that I'll cover will include Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and TikTok. And then from there, I'll also highlight some tips just on how to optimize your organic content just to work harder within each algorithm. Then I'm going to go through some overarching best practices. So I'll highlight what users want to see on social, including media type, as well as some industry trends. Then from there, I'll quickly run through how we use social data to optimize our strategy. And then finally, I will be going through a few examples of companies who are doing it right on social. So first, I want to talk about why optimizing your social is essential. And I think the answer is really well summed up by this quote from Sprout Social's The State of Social Media Investment Report, which is invest in social media or get left behind. So in this report, it's outlined that 80% of business executives think that it is either very important or absolutely essential for their company to invest additional resources in social. They also found that 90% of business executives agree that social will be the primary communication channel for companies for both their existing and potential customers moving forward. So it's essential that as a business, you are where your customers are. And there are 4 billion people on social media today. So social really gives your brand the chance to foster community, as well as stay top of mind. And it allows your brand to find, the right potential customers as well. And then last, I just want to touch on that 91% of business professionals say that their budgets for social are going to increase over the next 3 years. And over half say that their budget will increase by over 50%, which is huge. And brands use social for a variety of business outcomes, the most common form being for brand awareness, but social is also very effective for those lower funnel goals, like increasing conversions and sales as well. And then jumping back to that study, 68% of participants agree that social enables them to interact with brands. And social is really a major catalyst for brand interaction for Gen Z, millennials, and Gen X, while still almost 50% of boomers agree as well. And there are a variety of ways that consumers can engage with a brand on social. And the most common forms of engagement there are liking posts, following a brand, and leaving a review. And then last, social, like we mentioned, is becoming the most popular communications channel. And 84% of executives expect that brand social usage is going to increase over the next 3 years. And almost 1 in 2 businesses consider it to be their primary channel right now. So up next, I'm going to walk through a brand positioning review, otherwise called a social media audit. So this is just the act of going through your brand's data to really assess opportunities for improvement across your social channels. So I'm going to walk you through the steps to do this brand positioning review. So of course, the first step is going to be to identify all of the platforms where your brand has a social profile. So you're going to take the time to find any profiles that maybe aren't in your purview right now. So let's say maybe you have a Pinterest account that you haven't touched in years. This is going to be your opportunity to just make sure that all of your owned assets are under your control and to make sure that you have the login information for every social media channel. And here you might even uncover some opportunities to maybe bring some profiles back to the forefront of your strategy. Next, you are going to evaluate your branding and tone of voice for consistency. So this feels like an easy step, but different platform requirements really kind of make it a bit hazy in terms of bio character restrictions, cover photo options, and more. It can pretty much become disorganized. So you want to make sure to take a look at all of the information that is filled out across fields and across platforms just to ensure consistency and uniform appearance. And then you want to just check out your bio, about information, profile images, and banner images. Any relevant branded hashtags or URLs. Next, you're going to define your goals. So what do you want out of each platform? Are you looking to increase brand awareness or generate more sales, increase engagement, grow your audience, increase site traffic? There are a ton of options, but this will help to determine which metrics are most important to monitor for each platform going forward. And then from those goals, you're going to go take it a step further and take a look into which metrics you're evaluating and identify whether you're on the right track or if you need adjustments for improvement. And then next, you're going to dig into which posts on which specific platforms are top performers. And this is really going to tell you what content is resonating with your audience and inform what you should be focusing on moving forward. So, does your audience engage with educational content, or are they more focused on entertainment focused content? And then you're going to evaluate your demographic data, which is key. Your demographic data tells you exactly who you are speaking to, and it should determine, what kind of content you are creating and how you are communicating to your audience. So you wouldn't push out the same content for boomers that you would create for Gen Z. And then, as is par for the course in the world of social, there's always something new popping up. So you're going to want to make sure you take note of any new and emerging platforms and consider adding them into your strategy if they're a good fit for your brand. And then after that internal audit, it's time to perform a competitive analysis. So after you've identified your competitors, you will need to identify where they are, on what platforms, and compare their data to yours. So you will need to pull a competitor report that outlines all of those important metrics. And then after completing all of those steps, you're going to take this information and use it to your advantage to improve your social strategy and make informed decisions moving forward. Next up, we have algorithms and tips. I think everyone on this call knows what a social media algorithm is, but for the sake of clarity, social algorithms are a way of sorting posts in a user's feed based on relevancy rather than chronological time. So each social platform has a unique algorithm that is always changing and evolving to be optimized toward the best user experience. So I'm going to start with Instagram. Instagram has a set of rules that determine their post's organic reach. So it considers a user's past behavior and sweeps all of the available posts and evaluates each one to predict how interesting it might be to a specific user. So the most interesting content, as deemed by Instagram, goes to the top of that specific user's feed. And a few key ranking factors for this include engagement. So, does the user follow you and engage with your content? And do they actively search for your profile? Another ranking factor is timeliness. So, more recent posts are more important to people based on the Instagram algorithm. So, you have to post organic content when your audience is online. And then interest. It is also important to understand what your audience wants when it comes to content type and mix, since the algorithm serves users the content they most often engage with. So, marketers really need to understand what exactly resonates with your audience using your data. So, some tips to work with the Instagram algorithm. The first one is to post consistently. A consistent presence is pretty essential to staying top of mind. And this is where a content calendar comes into play. So, in order to be able to publish content on a regular and consistent basis, there needs to be planning and that level of organization in order to be able to execute. The next tip is to test new features. So, right now on Instagram, that includes Reels. The algorithm favors Reels so that users are seeing and using this new feature to compete with TikTok. Posting an effective Reel can significantly increase reach and engagement. An example I have is Reels are pulling in 67% more engagement than regular videos now for the average NFL team. And even more specifically, the Patriots, which are my favorite team, have the highest engagement with their reels at an average of 120,000 engagements per reel in comparison to only around 20,000 engagements per video. So that is a huge increase. A couple of tips for Reels. You don't want to use TikTok watermarks. This can actually potentially decrease your reach, and Instagram has stated that they don't want users posting that watermark on TikTok. So you can use any apps to remove that or just use the native Reels tools. You're going to want to shoot to fit the placement, which is vertical. So think like the stories placement. And then use effects available like music and filters in the app to make it feel more native and authentic. The next tip is to use relevant hashtags. So you want to actually take the time to find hashtags that are a right fit for your brand to get discovered by the right users. And then engagement on social is definitely key to fostering community, building trust, and turning brand loyalists into advocates. And you can accomplish this by community management, which is just the act of responding to comments and DMs and engaging with and reposting user generated content. And then lastly, you're going to want to post when your audience is online. To get the most organic reach, you want to post when they're there. Side note here is that these are actually COVID best times to post from Sprout Social, and they actually just came out with a brand new study of 2021 best times to post. So if you just look that up, that's available to you, but we're still going to go through these. So to get the most organic reach, you're going to want to post Monday, Tuesday, and Friday at 11 a.m., as well as Tuesday at 2 p.m. And then at AUDIENCEX, we do use Sprout Social, like I just mentioned, which has viral post technology to recommend best times based on your specific audience data. So that is really essential to understanding when exactly your specific audience is online rather than the industry standard. Up next, we have Facebook. So how does the algorithm work? The Facebook algorithm is actually not a single algorithm, but it is, quote, multiple layers of machine learning models and rankings, which predict which posts will be the most valuable and meaningful to an individual over the long term. So the algorithm at large rewards your brand with increased rankings if users engage with your content. Facebook uses thousands of ranking signals, but the same four are consistently identified as the most important when it comes to newsfeed ranking. The first is relationship. So, how often does a user engage with your brand profile? The second being content type. So, does the user engage with this kind of content? The third being popularity. So, are users responding to this post? Are they sharing it or are they saving it? And last is recency. So, how recently did the brand post as newer content is ranked higher? So, with all of these ranking signals, there are still some ways to optimize your Facebook content to increase your organic reach. The first tip we have again is to engage with your audience. So you want to humanize your content as conversation starters since the algorithm prioritizes pages that a user has interacted with in the past. And it's very important to foster community. When a user takes the time to engage with your brand, you want to make them feel heard. Also, you can try conversation starters in your caption to get your audience replying to one another and increasing your engagement. Another tip we have is to include more native videos in your strategy. So just not linking out to, let's say, a YouTube video. They want the video right in the Facebook feed so that that is where the discussion is going to happen with your followers instead of leaving the platform. And then last, post timing is everything. Like we mentioned, recency is a key signal. So you want to post when your audience is there. Currently, the best times to post on Facebook are Monday, Wednesday, Friday, between 10 and 11 a.m. The next platform we have is Twitter. Like many other social platforms, Twitter uses an algorithm that takes multiple criteria into account. And as always, they are constantly changing. And the Twitter timeline is a mix of algorithm content and real time content. And also, what is unique about Twitter is that you can turn off the algorithm if you want to see the latest tweets instead of the algorithmic content. So, recency on Twitter is huge, and a large portion of the feed is still in chronological order. And in addition to recency, content quality and connecting with your audience is very important for reach. And Twitter, like most other platforms, doesn't share a full breakdown of the algorithm, but we do know that recency, engagement, rich media, and activity are all key ranking signals. So the first section of your Twitter feed is where you're going to see content which is ranked as high by Twitter. And then if you scroll down in your feed, you're going to see an in case you missed it section where Twitter shows you older tweets from accounts that you engage with pretty regularly. And then following that section is where the chronological feed starts. So you're going to see the most recent updates. And then tips to work with the Twitter algorithm, consistent posting. I know you hear it across all platforms, but that's because it's so important because it gives your brand the highest chance for visibility. Also, implementing hashtags that are relevant is going to help you find the correct audience outside of your followers to view your tweet. And then last, it's important to have timely responses. Users these days expect a very fast turnaround time, and the algorithm rewards those engagements. And then on Twitter, the current best time to post is Friday between 7 and 9 a.m., with 9 a.m. showing the peak of activity. Next, the LinkedIn algorithm is a bit different than some of the other platforms that we've talked about. But similar to the other platforms we've discussed, the content that fosters engagement is highly prioritized. The LinkedIn algorithm takes into account whether your post is resonating with your audience, and whether it's producing relevant connections and whether they are interactive. So some tips are to use hashtags and comments. Excuse me. Adding hashtags to your post will help to increase your reach and make your post searchable. So adding a comment also increases visibility. So this means when people comment, you want to reply to them because if you can start a conversation, you are more likely to gain more reach. And then LinkedIn wants people to stay in platform. Obviously, as a business, there should be posts in your strategy that link out to a variety of places. But when it comes to LinkedIn, it is helpful to have posts that are just image or just video based with no link as well, because their algorithm prioritizes posts that will keep users on the platform. So it is helpful to have a healthy balance of posts that drive traffic both to your website as well as viewing the content on LinkedIn itself. And then last, once again, we have the timing. The current best times for LinkedIn are Wednesday at 3 p.m., Thursday between 9 and 10 a.m., and Friday from 11 a.m. to noon. So if you're posting Wednesday at midnight, by the time your users are online the next morning, your post is going to be buried and nobody's going to see it. And then the last algorithm that I'm going to walk through is TikTok. So the TikTok algorithm serves content to users based on interaction. So this means how much a user engages with an account, but the strongest ranking factor on TikTok is actually video completion rate. So if a user completes a video, it is more likely to appear on other users' For You page. And then the algorithm also prioritizes content that is using trending hashtags and sounds. And lastly, TikTok takes into account your device settings like language preference. So you're more likely to reach accounts in your area. And then some tips for the algorithm. You want to make content that holds users' attention so you have a higher chance of completion rate. So as a brand, that might mean making 15-second engaging videos as opposed to longer 60-second videos, just to ensure that high completion rate is attainable. You also can add an engaging caption and make sure that the beginning of the video is attention grabbing. And then you're going to make sure to post when your audience is online. So with a TikTok Pro account, you're able to see your followers' most active times. And also, you're going to want to engage with those users that engage with your content. All right, now we're on to what users want to see. So 68% of users want to engage with images, followed by video, text-based posts, and stories. So the takeaway here is that users really want to see a healthy content mix. So your strategy should include a variety of placements and content forms to ensure that your user has a wide variety of content that they see on a daily basis. And then, so posts that entertain, inspire, and teach are actually most likely to result in a user liking and sharing the content. So the takeaway here is to ensure that your strategy includes all of these different content pillars. So you should make sure that all of these are included into your strategy. And as a result, you're going to see an increase in engagement just since you're promoting content that your user wants to see. And then content themes for 2021. First, we have lives as being an important factor in 2021 and beyond. I think after a year in lockdown, lives really came to the forefront of a lot of businesses' strategies for that in the moment connection. Facebook live viewing increased by 50% during lockdown, and Instagram live viewing increased by 70%. The next theme we have is corporate social responsibility and transparency. So consumers really want to buy from brands that they trust and brands that give back. So if your brand or company has these initiatives integrated into your strategy already, they should be highlighted on your social channels so that your consumers and your users know what your brand values and they can make sure that they are aligned with those values. And in that same vein, we have sustainability. Excuse me. 81% of consumers feel strongly that companies should help improve the environment. So it's really clear that consumers are actively looking for brands that are conscious about their environmental impact. Again, if this is something that is already a pillar for your business, it just should be highlighted on your social channels so that it's clear to your consumer. And then last, we have inclusivity. 41% of shoppers are shifting away from retailers that don't reflect their views on identity and diversity. And then even further, 29% are willing to switch brands completely if they don't show enough diversity. So brands really have the opportunity here to build deeper connections with their consumers when showcasing their involvement. And then next, we have using data to improve strategy. At AUDIENCEX, the platform that we currently use is Sprout Social. This platform has some pretty robust reporting capabilities just across all of our platforms. And we use the reporting to determine how successful our campaigns are and see what is working well within our strategy and designated goals and KPIs. So there are a variety of social tools out there that your company may be using. In the past, we have used Falcon, Hootsuite, and a couple of others. It all just depends on what works best for your team, your size, your budget. And if you don't have access to one of these platforms, there are always the native analytics tool within each platform. But would definitely recommend utilizing a software that fits best with your needs because it's going to help save you time and money. And then the last section is my favorite section. It is thriving brands on social. First up, we have Glossier. So if you're not familiar with this brand, it is a makeup and skincare brand. And it's a brand that I personally follow, and they do a great job of fostering community with their customers, and they are doing a ton of things right on social. So first, they have really interactive content like this example that I pulled from their Instagram. It's a decision-making tree for which cleanser you should use. And if you go through each of the steps in the chart, you really see their tone of voice shine through, and it makes it pretty interesting and engaging. And posts like this are great because they encourage engagement and start conversations among customers, with each other, and with the brand, asking questions about the products. Another great component of this post is while it's lighthearted and funny with their tone, it's still educational, and it gives potential and existing customers information about the product and how to use it. So while the decision tree asks you if you feel like a lizard bathing in the Sahara, this is cute and it's aligned with their brand, but it still informs you, the user, that if you have dry skin, you should be using their Milky Jelly cleanser. And then next, this is just a snapshot of the Glossier hashtag use on Instagram alone. First, we can see that there are over 700,000 Glossier tagged posts. And we can also see the success of certain campaigns like their Glossier Cloud Paint, which is a blush. There are 24,000 tags of this specific product. So it really gives a good look into the brand loyalty that has been created as a result of their presence on social, and the fact that they have turned those loyalists into advocates going out and posting their products online. Then we have UGC, or user-generated content. Every week, Glossier posts a weekly top 5 of the best things that they were tagged in on social. So they repurpose that content on their own social channels to showcase real customer testimonials of their products. So not only does this encourage users to share as advocates of the brand, it also fosters a real sense of community, and it adds to their credibility that real people are loving their products. So it really builds that trust between the brand and the user. And then the last thing I want to highlight for Glossier, as I have mentioned, they have great community management. They have a lot of meaningful interactions with their consumers. So whether they're replying to a specific skincare question, or making a witty retweet, or maybe just even replying with a heart to a positive comment, they're making the user that took the time to engage with their brand feel heard and feel valued. So this specific example shows, again, a real testimonial of their product. And this is another UGC example that's great because Glossier pretty much uses their customers as co-creators. And it's beneficial for a couple of reasons. It builds credibility, and it also alleviates some of the burden of content creation to utilize more content and post on a more consistent basis. The Glossier internal team might not have the bandwidth to pump out 100 posts a month, but when they use that user-generated content, it makes it a little bit easier, with permission, of course. And then last, paying attention to the customer engagement really gives some insight into their target audience that you might not always be able to see within a data sheet. So for this specific example, we see a user tweeting that they let their husband use their face wash and now he loves it. So that data point says it is the spouse, but now we know that their husband loves the product as well. All right. The next brand that I want to talk about is Peloton. I think everybody knows what Peloton is these days, especially after a year at home where nobody really had access to the gym. But if you're not familiar, it is an at-home workout equipment company that offers classes with instructors that are both on demand and live. And this is another brand that I follow and I feel a sense of community with. And they do a really great job of connecting with their consumers on social and fostering their community. So utilizing new features, Peloton does a great job of keeping up with the new features like Reels on Instagram. And they've woven Reels into their strategy pretty seamlessly. And as a result, have an increased chance of additional reach for new potential customers that aren't within their existing following right now. And then hashtag usage, simple but effective. They add branded hashtags to their posts for increased reach as well. So they have Together We Go Far and One Peloton. And this way, users searching for these are going to see these posts. Content that sparks conversation. They tweeted, if you want a new leaderboard name, tell us something about yourself and we'll suggest something. And this tweet received over 500 replies and it ended up sparking a lot of conversation, between the brand and just between the Peloton community. And then last, again, we see UGC. Peloton repurposes a lot of the content that they have been tagged in to turn it into evergreen content. And they also create some longer tail stories on their blog as well. Like we talked about earlier, content that educates and inspires really encourages engagement. So this blog post about couples workouts does just that. And then last, we have Chipotle. They were one of the first brands on TikTok. They invested time and resources into their TikTok strategy early on and really established themselves on the platform. And it paid off pretty significantly with now one of the biggest brand followings on the platform with over 1.5 million followers. They also executed the Chipotle lid flip challenge, which you may have seen. They actually wanted to drive interest in ordering online through the app with their younger consumer base, which is a large portion of Chipotle's customers. And in order to reach those customers, they did the lid flip challenge, and it garnered over 320 million views. And then last, Chipotle uses memes as a way to relate to their customers. And their senior manager of social said that they use these posts to tap into specific insights and use social listening as a way to unlock new insights in an interview with eMarketer. They also use fans' posts as memes because she said that sometimes, the fan can communicate the message even better than the brand can. So this is just a really great example of the importance of posts that entertain and that it resonates with the customer. And that just about wraps up my presentation for today. So thank you all so much for joining. I hope this was helpful and you learned something that you can take forward to improve your social strategies. And I'll pass it off to Michelle.
All right. Thank you, Lindsay. If anybody has any questions, feel free to send them over. We've got a couple. Before we get into that, here's a shout out to our next webinar coming up on May 26th. It's a panel of industry experts on the future of programmatic advertising without cookies. So if you're worried about that, I hope you'll join us. We'll include a link to that to register in the follow-up email with the recording that we're going to be sending out shortly. So let's see, a few questions that we've received back to the beginning of the presentation, I believe it was. What's the best method or tool by which to do a competitive analysis?
Um, well, like I said, we use Sprout Social in a lot of situations. And they, for most platforms, have the ability to pull a competitive analysis. Um, they mostly show the growth of each profile, and a couple of profiles it shows maybe like top performers. I recently discovered a tool called Audience, close to AUDIENCEX. That was really great for competitive analysis too. And yeah, I think those are the two that we usually go to.
Alrighty, very cool. And then there were a couple questions about defining consistent posting. I know that was a suggestion and a tip that you went through for each platform at the beginning. Is that number the same among platforms, or is there a different, how do you judge consistent posting?
Yeah. So I think what that means is more everybody kind of looks for a magic number in terms of how many posts they should be posting per week. And there really is no magic number. It's just really important that you are posting on a consistent basis. So if that means for your brand, you're posting twice a week on Instagram, it's just more important that you keep up with that cadence rather than falling off and then maybe posting 6 times in a week. You just want to make sure you are constantly posting content on a regular basis as opposed to more sporadic.
Okay, very cool. One more question about influencer marketing. We didn't really touch on this, but do you have any thoughts on influencer marketing via social and how effective that is for, and is it effective for specific brands or verticals as opposed to everyone?
Yeah. So I think the most important thing about influencer marketing is to make sure that your influencer that you're working with, their audience aligns with your demographic and your target user. So if you are a makeup brand, you're going to want to make sure that your influencers that you're working with are in your target audience. And you can use a variety of softwares for this. We use NeoReach to determine whether their audience demographic data is aligned with our strategy. Usually, we break down our target audiences into subsegments, and we make sure that the audience data for the influencers that we're working with matches that of our built out audience that we're aiming to reach. So it definitely can be very effective if you do it correctly and you identify those influencers on the correct platforms to reach your target audience.
All right, thank you. All right, final question. I did not write this. This actually came from someone else, and it's a lovely way to end the webinar. So if we're interested in working with AUDIENCEX, do you guys help create social media content or focus more on strategy and reporting?
Yeah, we do both. We do full content strategies, and we also kind of work through the full social strategy and then build from content buckets from there on a monthly basis.
All right. Thank you, Lindsay. This has been amazing. If anyone has any other questions, feel free to send them over. We're going to be sending out the recording this afternoon. If you have questions that didn't get answered, you can reply directly to that email or send me a note at hello@audiencex.com. That comes directly to me, and we will get your questions answered. And if anyone has questions about working with us on social media, I can connect you with Lindsay. And I appreciate everyone's time. And Lindsay, I hope you enjoy the beautiful sunny weather in New York that I am very jealous of.
Thank you. Thanks, Michelle. And thanks everybody for joining.
All right, everybody, have a great one. Talk to you soon. Bye.